In this video, I'm reviewing the Gourmia Smokeless Grill and Air Fryer Food Station, so let's get started. The Gourmia Food Station comes with a 5/4 air fryer basket, a grill grate that measures close to 14 inches by 9 inches. There is a drip tray cover to be used with the drip tray, which I'll show you in a little while, and there is a temperature probe. There is a removable glass lid, and under the unit you'll find the drip tray where the cover needs to be inserted, like so. The model I'm reviewing is the GGA2120 from Costco, and this one doesn't come with the griddle. I have seen some that have the griddle included, but that may just be in the US. I haven't seen them here in Canada. However, I may be wrong. I'm going to wash out all the trays. I'm going to wipe clean the unit before plugging it in. This is why. And if the drip tray is not inserted all the way in, you'll see it shown on the display. There are 4 cooking functions: air fry, bake, roast, dehydrate on the left side. In the middle you have preheat, start, stop, the power button, turn reminder, and here on the right you'll see smoke extractor, which will be used with the grill function. And on the right side here you'll see the probe input. I always like to run any new appliances empty first. So on air fry mode, using the highest temperature setting of 220 degrees Celsius or 425 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. We don't need to preheat, so we can turn that off. You have to do it before running the program, so pause this, disable the preheat, and then press start. This will help get rid of some of the packaging residue and that initial plastic smell that you get from using it for the first time. And if you want to change the display from Celsius to Fahrenheit, press and hold the preheat button for 5 seconds. One thing I found a little inconvenient is the color of the preheat, turn reminder, and smoke extractor buttons. It's not very obvious on the screen, but in natural light it is quite difficult to see whether it is enabled or not because of the shade of blue that they've used. Since the buttons are already a shade of blue, they should have used another color or stayed with the red like they have on their other air fryers. The air fry function enables the preheat option, but it doesn't enable the turn reminder. And I forgot to enable it when I was cooking my chicken wings at 200 degrees Celsius, 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I started with 20 minutes, and one thing you have to remember is the timer continues to run when you open the lid to add your food. So no matter what function you're using, unlike their traditional air fryers where it would pause and then resume automatically when you would open and close it, so you do have to remember to press the stop or cancel button once to pause it. When I turned the wings part way, I wanted to add some more marinade. That's when I remembered to pause the timer. Even if you do forget, that's fine. You just will need to add some extra cooking time. The other thing you have to remember is, unlike the other traditional air fryers, the heating element on this one is at the bottom. Even though you have the viewing window, you're only really looking at the top of the food, and the bottom is actually where it's cooking. So even though you can't actually see the underside of the food, it's always a good idea to flip over the food and check on it and not just rely on the viewing window. I did flip them back over and add another 5 minutes to get the skin more crispy. So in total, these chicken wings took 25 minutes, and you can see how amazing the color turned out, and the crispy charred skin made them taste delicious. Sometimes I like to brush on some extra sauce with the Frank's hot or even some chili garlic, but for now I'm just going to show them without anything so you can get an idea of how well they cooked in the Gourmia Food Station. and these were actually piping hot as I tried to tear into them to show them to you. They actually turned out really good and very delicious. Again, using the air fried mode, this time I cooked some frozen onion rings together with chicken strips, starting with 20 minutes on 220 degrees Celsius, 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I decided not to preheat the unit first, so I disabled that. The basket is nice and wide that you can fit quite a bit into it, but I did find that any food that was closer to the edges didn't cook fully. You can see that the basket doesn't have any vents on the outer edges, so there isn't much air circulation in these areas. They really should have added some vents all over the basket, so I do have to remember to either move the food around or just bring them closer to the center where the vents are. I took out the onion rings after 20 minutes and cooked the chicken for another 5 more minutes. I also noticed that they were looking quite dry, so I brushed on a little oil so that the exterior gets a bit more crispy. And take a look at that, they look so much better. Beautiful. Staying with chicken, I decided to make some chicken skewers this time using the grill function, and it defaults to the high temperature, so you can use the temperature arrows to change the temperature to medium, low, high and maximum, which will be 265 degrees Celsius, 500 degrees Fahrenheit. The preheat, turn reminder and the smoke extraction options will auto enable, and you can press them to turn them off if you wanted, but I left all 3 of them on, and I set the cook time for 10 minutes to start with. If you're not ready when the add food sign shows, you can pause the timer by pressing the stop cancel button once, and then resume when you're ready by pressing the start button. You can leave the lid open when you're using the grill function. The timer continues to run, and the smoke extractor should help eliminate some of that smoke. I'm just going to close my lid. Even though I added some oil to my marination, I felt the chicken was getting a little dry, so I brushed on some butter, and I used this garlic and herb flavored butter while it was still cooking, and you can see that the grill marks just looked beautiful. So after 12 minutes, the chicken looked amazing with all its beautiful brown color and grill marks. I also prepped a little sauce mixture so that when I do take them off the grill, I'm going to brush on the sauce. But when I tore into the chicken, it was still a little undercooked and a little tough. So I popped them back onto the grill for another 10 minutes. Turn off the preheat because it's already hot. But I did think to clean the grill first, and any bits that were left on the grill ended up getting stuck onto the chicken here, as you can see, which was okay, it didn't turn out too bad. The chicken, however, I had to brush on a lot of sauce because I think they turned out rather dry, and I'm beginning to wonder if the smoke extractor played a part in it. But this time the chicken was definitely cooked through and it was tender. When using the grill function to cook some tuna steaks, I made sure to use the probe this time. The Gourmia Foodstation doesn't have preset cook times when using the probe, so you have to refer to the booklet to set the internal temperature. The temperature on the left is to set the grill temperature, so I'm going to leave it on high, 260 degrees Celsius, 500 degrees Fahrenheit. And now the internal temperature, you want to use the buttons on the right. I set it to 60 degrees Celsius, 140 degrees Fahrenheit for fish, preheating the unit first. The tuna steaks had a very simple marination of olive oil, salt and black pepper. Inserted the probe into the thickest part of the tuna steak. And flipping them over part way, you can see how beautiful those grill marks looked. And once the tuna steaks were done, they looked amazing, but unfortunately they did overcook and they were very dry, similar to the chicken skewers. So the tuna steaks were a little disappointing. Testing out the roast function, I cooked some bone-in chicken thighs and a piece of chicken breast together with some baby potatoes cut in half. The preset temperature is 205 degrees Celsius, 400 degrees Fahrenheit, but I decided to lower the temperature a tad to 195 degrees Celsius, 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and cook these slightly longer for 30 minutes. I decided not to preheat first, so I disabled the preheat. The auto turn reminder doesn't turn on when using the roast function, but if you want it to, you can press it. I placed the chicken top side down so that the top can brown nicely, keeping it closer to the heating element. But in the last 5 minutes, I decided to flip everything over since they were looking a little pale. I wanted to get the top side browned as well. But I forgot to pause the timer again, and as soon as I realized that it was still running, I paused it. So I kind of wish there was a auto pause when you're using the air fryer, bake, roast and dehydration function when you open the lid. So after 30 minutes, the potatoes were nice and crispy. Just take a look at them with the beautiful golden brown color, and the outside of the chicken too was a beautiful color and had a nice sear. But again, I found that the chicken was dry inside. So I'm not really sure why, but I did find that it tended to leave my meats fairly dry, even though I add oil to the marination, even though I've covered it in butter. So if I'm honest, I am a little disappointed with how it does cook meat, especially the larger pieces that need more time. So you do need to try it out a few times to find what temperature and time works. I personally wouldn't rely on the temperature probe, but I just feel that it's overcooking the outside and it's leaving the insides very dry. So overall, the Gourmia Foodstation is a great design with its user-friendly display. You can store the grill and the tray and close the lid part way. There are no extra accessories included, but you can fit a small muffin tray. But I can't fit my 10-inch pizza tray in, so I'll have to lay my pizza base directly in the basket. I can get my 8-inch baking tray into the basket, as long as the height doesn't obstruct the lid when closing it. The other thing is you can't bake any bread or cakes that need space to rise. I baked croissants using the bake function, which actually has a croissant icon on it. Setting the temperature to 165 degrees Celsius or 325 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes, I also placed them on parchment paper so that the dough doesn't get stuck in the holes of the basket. So like I said earlier, you don't expect to bake anything that needs to rise. The croissants made contact with the lid and deflated. I was also surprised when I turned them over to see that the underside was burnt. So lesson learned there, not to rely on the viewing window because that only shows the top. So the bake function is using a convection bake method rather than the convection bake, which would use a fan to circulate the heat, but this is only using a regular convection bake, so only the bottom side of the croissants got baked and they did need to be turned over. Moving on to cleaning the unit. Here is what the unit looked like after I cooked the chicken wings. I was actually very surprised that no chicken juices dripped onto the heating element. Since they are completely exposed under the basket, I was expecting them to start smoking, but everything ended up on the drip tray. The basket and grill are very easy to clean together with the drip tray. I like to wipe away any large pieces and then again just wash with Dawn dish soap and hot water. I'm not sure what the purpose of the drip tray cover is though. Everything still falls through to the drip tray. If anything, I feel it's just an extra piece to clean and wash. And then inside the unit where the heating element is, there were quite a bit of chicken juices that drip towards the back of the unit here, and you do need to use something to try and get underneath the heating element, but it is fairly easy to clean, much better than the previous air fryers or any other air fryers that I have owned. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a good idea to wipe any bits off the grill grate if you plan to continue cooking on it, or if you see that quite a bit of buildup is coming on there. Alright guys, I hope you found the video useful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Don't forget to give this video a like, and I hope to catch you in my next video.